Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Helium 10 Total Package. My name is Lailama Hassan and this is the show where we show you step by step exactly how to optimize your Amazon listings as well as your customer experience. Overall, I want to give you the optimization strategies to help you index and convert, but to also help you have happy customers once they receive your product. And that is why we call it the total package. Today, we're going to be going over 3D rendered images, what they are, who can use them, when you should use them, and when you should stay away from them. So what exactly is 3D rendering? 3D rendered images for Amazon sellers are becoming a popular trend. It involves creating three-dimensional models from two-dimensional drawings. So let's compare listings with the same product category that have 3D rendered images and one that has used traditional photography. All right, so we're going to compare two products within the same product category, and we're taking a look at a fidget spinner. Now, this seller has made use of traditional photography and they've made a beautiful, clean, nice looking main image. So no complaints here. I really like how it looks. Let's move on to the other product. This again is a fidget spinner, and this particular seller has used 3D rendering. So both of them look really nice and professional, really clean images. I like both of them. Now, both listings look great, and in this case, you can go for either option. Since there's no clear winner here, you're probably thinking 3D rendering looks great, but I'm not convinced, Lailama. Apart from giving us images as strong as real-life photography, does it even have any benefits? Well, the answer is yes, it does. The process of 3D rendering has no physical limitations. So what does that mean for you as an Amazon seller? Well, first, you do not need to ship your product to a photographer or a photography agency. 2, you do not need equipment to photograph the product. 3, you do not need to rent out a studio for photography. And this goes for whether you were planning on outsourcing it or whether you were planning on doing the photography yourself. And lastly, you do not even need to have the product present. So essentially, you're saving up on a lot of potential costs like shipping, studio rental, photography equipment, product samples, and so much more. Now, many of you may be familiar with our FBA case study called Project X. And for that case study, we hired professional photographers to help us with the listing images. And they look great. As you can see from these images, they look pretty good. However, we saw a dip in one of our product sales, so we try to come up with ways to get a boost in our sales, and so we talked to Anthony Cofrancesco to see if he could help us out. He suggested we give our listing images a refresh using 3D rendered images, so he connected us to an agency called Fade Visuals, and the first step was to figure out what the process looked like. We assumed the first step would be sending them the product, but Anthony said no. And honestly, I was baffled. But the remarkable thing is that unlike conventional photography, you will not need to send in your product to a studio for photography when doing 3D renders. Instead, you just submit the dimensions of your product to the artist creating your 3D renders, along with a few low resolution photos from various angles. This will enable the artist to create a realistic and accurate render of your product, which will basically look exactly like your product. So now if you have any logos engraved on your product, or if you have a product label, then you would need to provide those two things to your artist as well. And these can just be in the form of some kind of graphic as well. So that is exactly what we did, and this is what the listing looks like after being revamped with 3D rendered images. After changing our main image alone, our average page views went up by a whopping 17%. So clearly these 3D rendered images look great in searches. Look at how clean and professional our main image looks in comparison to some other listings that are showing up in the search results. Now, let's go over some examples of listings or products that look great with 3D renders. So I'm going to search for the keywords microphones for podcasting and take a look at this product category. And as you can see, almost all listings here have 3D rendered images. So if you're a niche as such, you would want to have 3D renders as the bare minimum. Otherwise, surviving in this niche would be a little tough. And as good of an option 3D rendering is, it may not be for every product. So let's start with products that 3D renders could be suitable for. The first scenario where you would want to use 3D renders would be for bulky items like furniture or like this door here. If you were going the traditional photography route, it would have been very tough to, let's say, fix this door in a studio and then get that perfect lighting setup for the door and get pictures taken. You know, all of this time and energy put in to photographing your product will convert into higher costs for you. And the second scenario is if you wanted an exploded image like this one here, where let's say you want to show off the materials you have used for manufacturing your product, it's especially ideal to go for 3D rendering in this case because maybe you have higher quality materials that you're using in comparison to your competitors and you really want to show off these unique standing points for your particular product, or like your unique selling points, right? So this is where 3D renders are great because then it will allow you to really showcase your product to your customers or your buyers. Third scenario where 3D rendered images would look great would be for products that have reflective surfaces. So this could be reflective metal or even glass products. So let's say this bottle here, if we wanted to go the traditional photography route, would take hours to, get the perfect shadows and lighting and the perfect spots. And then also to get rid of reflections in post-production. Again, that will take the artist a lot of time to give you that perfect result. And so could convert into very high costs for you, which is why 3D rendered images make the job a lot easier and would really save the time for you and your artist, and maybe would even prove to be a less expensive option. And lastly, if you have a bottle or anything with a product label, literally, you can make use of 3D rendered images because if you were going to do real life product photography on such a product, sometimes you'll notice that the label or the text on the label that is very important information would not be as visible. And, your customers might not find it easy to read these. So you want to make sure that these labels are legible. And this is where 3D renders kind of work their magic and give you a consistent and clean looking image. So we've taken a look at some products where 3D renders would be a great option to go for, but depending on your product's texture and material, 3D renders may not be a great option 100% of the time. Some examples of this kind of a product category would be, let's say, clothing or any product that does not have a smooth or linear surface of texture. For example, this dress shirt here is a 3D render and it looks completely fake. So in general, I would not recommend an image that gives your product a fake look because as a brand, it does not leave a great impression on your customer or instill confidence. It also becomes a lot harder for a customer to visualize the texture, quality, or material of your product in question. However, with clothing items, there usually are more variations that look similar but are, let's say, different color or pattern. So in that case, it becomes a pretty affordable option to go with 3D rendering. So if you have a lot of product variations and you're on a tighter budget, then it definitely is a suitable option for you, but maybe hiring an artist that has a good portfolio may improve your chances of getting good images. Now, let's say that we have some great renders and our 3D artists have done a stellar job at it. For instance, like this product here. So they're using 3D renders for their main image as well as their infographic, and that looks great. But I usually do not recommend going for 3D renders in your lifestyle images because adding a 3D render into a stock image may appear fake. The reality is that matching a 3D rendering's shadows and lighting with that of a stock image is almost impossible, even for the best artists out there. Let's take a look at the same listing, but at the lifestyle imagery to prove my point. You see how the render is done excellently, but the same render now being used in a lifestyle image looks odd. So what are some of the key takeaways from this episode? Well, 3D rendered images can look as good as traditional photography in the case of a wide variety of products. Rendering is a cheaper option since you are saving up on shipping, rental, and many other costs. 3D rendering gives you a better result when it comes to difficult to photograph products like bulky items or reflective objects. If you're in a niche where your competitors have 3D rendered images, then you have to follow suit to keep up with competition. And lastly, lifestyle images look better with traditional photography. All right, this marks the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you watch the next episode where we'll focus on a completely different aspect of listing optimization. I wanted to close out the episode today by mentioning that I also do monthly Ask Me Anythings about listing optimization along with Kevin King, Bradley Sutton, and other experts in our team in the Freedom Ticket Extra Coaching Program. So if you'd like to try it out, go to helium10.com/FTX and use code the total package to get 50% off your first month of coaching there. So it's only $38.5. And if at the end of the month you're not satisfied, you can get your money back. So everyone, sign up for that now. Make sure to come up with your questions when I'm on and let me know that the total package brought you here. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe and hit the bell icon at the bottom so you can get notified every time we have new content for you. Let us know your thoughts or what you want to learn about in the comments section. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.